Greetings and blessings, blessings and greetings, blessed souls, to Goodman. And we're live from Kesekron Heights. It is now the fourth day of Menachemav. The Father comes to comfort us, none other than the Father of all creation, King of Kings, Melech HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. On this fourth day of Menachemav in the Hebrew month, and we're now 5,770 years blazing and grazing into the creation, corresponding to July 14th, 2010. I'd like to pluck out a little teaching from the Lubavitcher Rebbe from Tovshin Lamed, 5,730 years blazing and grazing creation would be 1970, almost 40 years ago. The Rebbe delivered this teaching on this to pluck out something from that teaching. That the Torah, which comes from the Most High, descends through many worlds. It comes from its place of glory and goes down through the world of intellect, Olam Atzilut, then it goes down into the world of thought, Olam Abriya, then through the world of speech, Olam Yetzirah, and then Olam Asiyah, the world of action. So too the mitzvot. The mitzvot, before they enter into the world of intellect, or even have a place between the Most High, where we do not even know who He is, aside from the names that are given Him as He instructed Moshe, the mighty Levite prophet. But there are mitzvot, which are even considered commandments, divine instruction from Him, higher than what would be called mitzvot Hashem, the commandments of the Most High, and then they descend down to the level to become the commandments of the Most High, and they become then matters which eventually enclose themselves in physical matters. One of the things that the commandments, the mitzvahs, enclose themselves is the mitzvah of tzedakah, which is the charity, acts of righteousness, which is connecting us now to part 2 of what is the role of government concerning the needy. So we're going to turn now to chapter 34 in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, which is not just pertaining to the children of Israel, the Jewish people, but also the blessed children of Noach, the descendants of Noach and his wife, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And you can read more about who blessed them in chapter 9, verse 1 in Genesis. Bereshit, Perek, Tes, Posech, Aleph. So in the first law, in chapter 34, and the law is pertaining to acts of righteous tzedakah, the Holy One, blessed be He, is close to the poor, as it is written in Job, Iyuv, chapter 34, verse 28, quote, and He hears the cries of the poor, unquote. Accordingly, one should take great care lest they cry out, for a covenant has been established with them, as it says in Exodus chapter 22, verse 26, states, quote, and it shall come to pass that he will cry to me, and I will hear, for I am compassionate. That's the Most High saying who's compassionate, unquote, end of quote. So the Talmud, in the Jerusalem Talmud, and also you can go to the Midrash called Shir Shirim Rabbah, the Song of Songs Midrash, chapter 6, verse 11 states, quote, the door that will not open for the poor will open for the physician, end of quote. A person should meditate on the fact that every moment he asks the Most High for his livelihood. And just as he requests from the Holy One, blessed be He, that He should hear his cry, so too a human being should hear the cry of another poor human being. He should also meditate on the fact that the wheel of fortune turns constantly, and ultimately either he or his children or his grandchildren will need to receive charity. May all be spared this pain. A person should not think, how can I reduce my wealth by giving it to the poor? Rather, a person should realize that the money is not his, but rather a trust granted to him in order to carry out the will of the one who entrusted it to him. This is the portion that he will ultimately receive for all his labor in this world, as it says in the prophet Isaiah 58:8, states, quote, your tzedakah, your acts of righteousness will proceed before you, unquote, end of quote. As well, concluding on this note, blessed souls, tzedakah, acts of righteousness, charity, wards off harsh decrees, and prolongs one's life. So when you hear these words, blessed souls, and we hear the argument, how much should government be involved in helping the needy, and catcalls are made with verbal arrows being thrown in this direction, saying they were spending too much money. The other one says they're not spending enough money. before we get even to the level of what is the role of government, the question is, do we believe these are the instructions the Most High given to the children of man? Remember, the first person to be asked if they were their brother's keeper, or asked where their brother was, responded, "Am I my brother's keeper?" That was Cain. Moments after, he committed the first, heaven forbid we should never get involved in this, the first homicide in history. So we have to meditate a little bit deeper, blessed souls. Is the money that we struggle and toil with the sweat of our brow ours because of the strength of our muscles, which eventually become worm food? Or are we being empowered by our souls, our neshamot, which came from a place, from that teaching which I quoted in the first installment, I believe, of what is the role of the government concerning the needy, above it, Rabbi Nachman Schneerson, direct descendant of King David and Solomon. The soul, the neshama, perceives all levels of chaining down of cause and effect into the creation. Which is more powerful, the soul or the flesh? The flesh will fade. The soul is eternal. And although we will see in that blessed and awesome day the resurrection of the righteous, those who are involved in tzedakah, we have to make a balance and really check ourselves out. Say, what is our role in sustaining the needy? And not to think that the government is some cold, inhuman, uncaring structure. But if the government is filled with people who are fulfilling their personal obligations of helping the poor on their own daily interactions, on their own daily levels of life progression, hopefully this will influence the government to make the decisions which are needed to be made, even in the harshest of economic times, to help as many people as possible in what is honorable and dignifying, and will give those who are in need of help to become self-helping. In the process of them becoming self-helping, to help others along the way. This is Danzo Sigubin signing off, wishing everyone a Hava Chad, one love, Gorel Echad, one destiny, the Kulano for all of us. B'darchi Noam, pleasant way, B'darchi Shalom, in a peaceful way, Kulano for all of us. Ba'ofen Nitzchi, in an eternal way, Shalom, meaning peace, and within my context, never goodbye, Ella, rather, the Hamshich,